We notice a trend, this blaming of each other for all of our problems, when in reality, the real culprit of our problems is the establishment. The establishment, which are congressional leaders who are bought off and who allow the system to continue to be rigged against the average American. Our congressional leaders, our political leaders, not just in Congress, but on our local level, from mayor to governor, to Congress, to the Senate, to all the way up to the executive branch, are leaders who have allowed for the rich to get richer and the poor to remain poor, and even the middle class to reel into poverty. And we're seeing that now more than ever with this pandemic. We're seeing that corporations are running off like bandits. In fact, Axios reported that 52% of corporations have made more profits this year. Can you believe that? This year, those corporations, majority of corporations have made more money this year than they did last year. That is unconscionable, that they could make more money during a pandemic when so many millions of people are losing their jobs. That's unconscionable. This whole idea that the shutdown was bad for corporate America and they were the ones advocating for the opening of America so that they could reap in their corporate profits was not accurate. The reality is that these corporations have been able to run off with all of our money when they were able to eliminate their competition. When mom and pop had to stay home and close their businesses down, that is when corporate America, with all the lobbyists they have in Washington, that is when they were able to rake in the benefits. So now we're seeing corporate America run off with 52% of corporate America running off with way more profits than they did last year. The remaining corporations were the same or a little worse. I mean, even malls, Simon Malls, which is, a mall. Nobody was allowed to go to a mall for a long time. They reported that last year they made $1 billion. This year they only made, $750 million. Still enough to survive. They weren't crushed like mom and pop. They didn't do as well as last year, but they weren't taken under. That was our neighborhood bar and restaurant, our neighborhood salons, our neighborhood mom and pop shops. They were the ones who were taken. They were the ones who were completely thrown under because they don't have lobbyists. Remember that. They don't have lobbyists. Hollywood. You won't believe this. Here in California, Hollywood and actors are deemed, get this, essential workers. They're essential. I couldn't think of a job that it was less essential than a Hollywood actor, but they're considered an essential worker. Why is that? Why is a Hollywood actor deemed essential, and yet the bar and the restaurant, they're deemed non-essential? They're all entertainment. I don't understand the difference. I mean, at least a bar will give you a drink when you really need one, but what is a Hollywood actor going to do? There is enough content on Netflix for us to survive and watch show after show after show for years at this point. We don't need any new content to be pumped out there. That is not essential. Yet here in California, Hollywood actors and the industry are deemed essential, and the average working person, the average mom and pop shop, they're not. And that is not because, I know some people say, well, it's because tax revenue for the city. No, the city actually makes more tax revenue off the mom and pop shops because there's more of them than they do off of the Hollywood industry. The difference is the lobbying to the political campaigns. Those politicians don't care about tax revenue. Their job isn't dependent on tax revenue. Their job is dependent on campaign dollars. They need campaign dollars to continue their messaging, to continue brainwashing you to vote for them. That's what they need. So our political leaders favor anyone who gives them money. It has nothing to do with our community. It would be better, actually, if they paid attention to the tax revenue. Quite frankly, at least then they'd be paying attention to the needs of the city. But that's not what they do. They don't care about the needs of the city. They don't care about the tax revenue. Their job isn't dependent on that. And they don't care about your mom and pop shop. They don't care if you go under. We're seeing video after video after video go viral. The man in Michigan who interrupted the news broadcast and said, I'm going under and our political leaders aren't doing anything for us. The woman here in Los Angeles who has her Pineapple bar and saloon, and she was forced to close down her outdoor dining area, and next door, 50 feet away, Hollywood was allowed to set up a way larger outdoor dining space while she was forced to shut down. That's not because of health reasons or science or even tax revenue. That has everything to do with the lobbying that these big corporations and big money interests are allowed to do. The lobbying is our biggest enemy in this country right now. They are able to sway our politicians to ensure that they do not work in our best interest. So here we are, we're in this collapsing of our economy. 100 years ago, I believe that over 80%, 90% of our economy was mom and pop shops. Small businesses made up 80 to 90% of our economy. And it has slowly dwindled year after year after year to where then it became 70%, then it was 60%. And then right before the 2008 crash, it was just a little bit above 50%. It was like 55% of our economy was mom and pop shops. After 2008, it dwindled. It was finally below half. It was about 45% of our economy was mom and pop shops, small businesses. And now I'm telling you, after this pandemic, it's going to be maybe 30%. 30% of our economy will be mom and pop shops after this. So they don't have lobbyists. They don't have somebody calling up Nancy Pelosi on their behalf. They don't have somebody calling Gavin Newsom or Andrew Cuomo or Gretchen Whitmer. They don't have anybody calling them on their behalf saying, you remember when I donated to your campaign, all those thousands of dollars? Remember when we did that? Well, that was because you were going to keep us afloat. There's absolutely no reason why Hollywood would be deemed an essential working class. That just goes to show the corruption that is in our political system. That's the corruption right there. That's all you need to know. Hollywood actors are essential. That is the biggest joke I've ever heard. And unfortunately, it's not a joke. So, we're seeing the greatest wealth heist in the history of our nation. We've got corporations running off like bandits. And by the way, in those meetings, those corporations that are making 52% of the corporations making more money than they did last year. You know what they're saying in their meetings? They're wondering, what can we do to ensure this level of profit stays? They don't want to go back to normal. 52% of the corporations have no desire to go back to normal. They want to keep it where it's at now, where they're making fistfuls of cash. So they're trying to figure out schemes for how they can continue to do that. You know how they do that? They keep their competition at home. They say, well, let's just not allow them to go out and work. Keep them shut down. And many of us buy it, right? We all buy it. We gobble it up because they told us a virus was coming for us. They told us that we were all going to die. And so we all said, okay, I guess we're going to have to stay inside. We're going to wear a mask. We're going to shelter in place. We don't want to see our loved ones. We're not going to be by the bedside of our parents when they pass away. We're going to not hold the hands. I'm sorry, but if you tell me I cannot hold the hand of my father when he's dying, you can go to hell. I'm barging in. That's not happening. It's not happening. And yet that is what's happened to hundreds of thousands of people, not just those who've died of COVID, but those who died of something else. They were not allowed to see their family members. Even on the basic level, even if you take away this whole, well, you're going to lose your life's work, that's bad. That's bad. That's not something to just skirt over, by the way. You're going to lose your life's work. That's bad. But it's even worse to tell somebody you can't be with your loved one when they're passing away. But this is what they've done to us. What they've done to us is they've said, you cannot. We demand it. But Hollywood, exempt. The UK, what did they do? They just announced that high-value business people don't have to quarantine. Right, because high-value business folks, those who bring in millions of dollars to the country, oh, I see, they can't spread the virus. Oh, no, it's you dirty people. It's you dirty poor people. You're the ones who are spreading the virus, not the rich, you dirty poor people. Even though the rich are the ones who actually flew it into the country. How else did it get here? Certainly didn't come here because poor people who couldn't travel didn't go to China. But here's the thing. I noticed this trend. When Donald Trump ran for president, people were suffering. After the 2008 crash, it became really clear. It was really clear that these corporate elites who have bought off our government, that they ensure that nothing good comes to us, that it all trickles up to the top. Our tax dollars, our money, goes to them, and we have to just hope for some scraps to be thrown at us. That was clear after 2008. So what happened? There was a rising of people. They rose up. We rose up. All of us. We rose up and we said, we are not going to have this anymore. And Bernie Sanders became extremely popular and Donald Trump became extremely popular. Outsiders who were not with the establishment. That's what became popular. And Donald Trump said, the issue for you is not me, the rich guy. The rich guy who's gone bankrupt 3 times and who's needed bailouts from the government. No, it's not me, the rich guy who's just, schmoozing around eating caviar and dating young women. I'm not your problem. The problem is the Mexican who's on the other side of the border. We got to build a wall. That's your problem. It's the Mexican who wants to come into this country, the guy who's just trying to make a buck, the guy who's just trying to make a couple bucks. That's the guy who's your problem. He's your problem. The guy who's going to wash dishes in the back of the restaurant, the guy who's going to clean toilets, the guy who's going to swim across the Rio Grande, risk his life to make a few dollars, hardly any money, less than minimum wage. That's the guy who's your problem. That's the one you should fear. That's what he sold us in 2016. And in 2020, fast forward, what am I saying? The same thing. Except this time, it's liberals saying, your problem is Bob in Michigan who voted for Trump and doesn't want to wear a mask, and he wants to keep his business open. He's unwilling to close his business because he wants to make a buck. Bob in Michigan, he's the problem. He's your enemy. He voted for Trump. He's a racist. That racist is your problem. That guy is your issue, not the banks who are running off with all your money and charging you a boatload for an education, for knowledge that's in thin air, that shouldn't cost you anything. Not them. They're not your problem. Not the people who've been jacking up the rates on everything, all the cost of living so that we can't have the American dream like our parents and our grandparents. Not that guy. That guy's not your problem. Not the rich guy who's running off with all the taxes, who's getting the bailouts and the tax incentives and the tax breaks to operate his multi-billion-dollar business. And meanwhile, you get less than $8 an hour in order to try to survive. That's not your problem. That guy's not your problem. No, the problem you have is Bob in Michigan, who's not wearing a mask, even though you are halfway across the country and you never will meet Bob. Bob's your problem. You see what they've done to us? You see how the establishment worked us? You see how what they did was they painted the problem to be something that was something it wasn't. Some guy trying to make a buck. The guy trying to keep his business open. The one that, he worked his whole life in Pennsylvania or in Texas or in Idaho or California, wherever they are. They've sacrificed their blood, sweat, and tears to build a small family business. And now they're being told by the government they have to shut it down. And you're saying, that guy's your problem. He's the reason you have financial woes because the pandemic took your job or ensured you couldn't make any money. That person is not your problem, no more than Jose, who's run across the border and who's swam across the Rio Grande, is your problem. Bob is not your problem, and Jose is not your problem. Your problem is the establishment. They have gamed the system. They have rigged it. We see them in Congress right now squabbling over, God knows what they're squabbling over. Nancy Pelosi, who's now accepting a deal that's half of what originally was offered months ago, but she didn't want Trump to win. And because she didn't want Trump to win, now we're going to be throwing some scraps. We're going to be throwing some scraps. The Biden administration, what are they talking about? They're talking about student loan debt relief. Look, I'm not going to shy it away. I got $35,000 in student loan debt. So I'm not going to turn it away if they're going to give it to me. But I don't think I need it. I don't need it. I have been paying my student debts for 15 years, and I'm expecting to pay them for another 15. I don't need it. I don't need it. Who needs it right now is the person who cannot pay their rent, who is jobless. They need it. They need relief. But your problem is Bob, who won't wear a mask. Not Congress, who doesn't do their job. Not your governor, who requires you to shut down. No, it's not them. It's us. We are each other's enemy. That's what they want us to believe in order to keep us divided. And the sooner we realize this, the sooner we realize that the guy who's just trying to make a buck to survive, to support their family is not the problem. You should say to that guy, I get it. And this sucks. I get it, and this sucks. And because they're not willing to help you, they are causing us to die. If you think this virus is coming to get you, and it's because people aren't wearing masks and because they're not shutting down and it's going to kill you, you don't blame Bob. Blame Nancy. Blame Mitch. Blame Congress. Blame your governors who decide to shut you down without any relief. I don't know how they get away with this. I don't know how they say you're closing down without also saying, but we're going to give you XYZ. I don't know how they get away with that. But we shouldn't allow them to get away with that. We shouldn't allow them to get away with that. But I'm noticing this trend that it is from 2016 to now, and I'm sure way before that, and I'm sure it'll happen after that, we have been gaslit to blame each other. And we are not each other's problem. It's the establishment that is. And we need to rise up and tell them we have had enough and we will not tolerate this. We will not turn on each other. We need to unite as Americans. I don't care what they gaslit you into believing, that one was a Nazi, the other was a socialist. Neither is true. It's all bullshit. We all need to get together and fight back. This is wrong. They are robbing us. They are kowtowing to their lobbying interests, and that's it. And that's what we need to focus on. Not on each other, but on them.